enthusiasm. For example, when slavery was abolished in 1888, as mentioned by Lima Barreto, when Princess Isabel announced the long-awaited decree from the balcony of the Paco Imperial, people crowded into the square below. Although eventually enacted by the government, the law, known as the Ley Áurea, was largely the result of the pressure of public opinion. As important as it was, the law nonetheless did very little to integrate those Brazilians who had enjoyed neither citizenship nor rights for so long. It illustrates a recurring pattern. Many such acts were followed by political and social setbacks, projects that failed to produce an inclusive society, a republic devoid of republican values, as described by Lima Barreto. This is the reason why comings and goings, advances and setbacks are so much a part of Brazilian history, a history that might be characterized as mestizo, in a sense, like the Brazilian people. It is a history providing multiple and at times ambivalent answers, one that cannot be interpreted in terms of the traditionally celebrated dates and events, nor can it be traced through objective considerations alone, nor in terms of a clear-cut evolution. Brazil's history is an amalgam generating different forms of memory. It is mestizo not only because it is a mixture, but also clearly a separation. In a country characterized by the power of the landowners, many of whom own immense estates, each the size of a city, authoritarianism and personal interest have always been deeply rooted, undermining the free exercise of civic power, weakening public institutions, and consequently the struggle for people's rights. There is a popular Brazilian proverb, "If you steal a little, you're a thief. If you steal a lot, you're a chief," as if to legitimize the notion, highly controversial and much discussed today, that the wealthy and powerful are exempt, citizens above suspicion. There is a further trait which, as a social rather than a natural construction, is not endemic, but is nevertheless shockingly resistant to improvement and a constant presence in Brazilian history. The logic and language of violence are deeply embedded determinants of Brazilian culture. Violence has characterized Brazilian history since the earliest days of colonization, marked as they were by the institution of slavery. This history of violence has permeated Brazilian society as a whole, spreading throughout, virtually naturalized. Although slavery is no longer practiced in Brazil, its legacy casts a long shadow. The experience of violence and pain is repeated, dispersed, and persists in modern Brazilian society, affecting so many aspects of people's lives. Brazil was the last Western country to abolish slavery, and today it continues to be the champion of social inequality and racism, which, albeit veiled, is equally perverse. Although there is no legal form of discrimination, the poor, and above all black people, are the most harshly treated by the justice system, have the shortest lifespan, the least access to higher education, and to highly qualified jobs. The indelible mark of slavery conditions Brazilian culture. The country defines itself on the basis of gradations of skin color. Whereas those who achieve success become whiter, those who become impoverished become darker. But Brazilian self-identity does not end with this porous sense of ethnicity, for there is racial inclusion in many of the country's best-known cultural activities: capoeira, candomblé, samba, football. Brazilian music and culture are mestizo in both their origin and singularity. Nevertheless, the numerous processes of social exclusion cannot be ignored. They are reflected in the limited access to entertainment and leisure, to the employment market and to health services, affecting birth rate, and in the daily intimidation by the police, where racial profiling is the norm. To a certain extent, this amalgam of colors and customs, the mixture of races, has formed the image of Brazil. On the one hand, this mixture was consolidated by violence, by the forced importation of peoples, cultures, and experiences into the country. Far from any alleged attempt at social harmony, the different races were deliberately